Psychosocial risks. What are they? Psychosocial hazards. What are they? We all know that we hear these buzzwords going around, but the understanding behind it is very limited. People know that they want a good culture within their business. They know that they want to build a mentally healthy workplace. And I hear noise has increased. People are talking about it a lot more. But the thing is they're talking. They're not actually doing. And when I ask them what they're doing it out of guesswork. They think that this is a problem, so that's what they're going to do. And when I say, how are you testing that? How do you know that that's what they want? Again, they have nothing, because they're going on hearsay. They haven't actually had those conversations and real understanding of what the psychosocial risks are. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what the psychosocial risks are, how they impact the business and people, and also how you can actually test and measure them. And this actually saves you a lot of time, a lot of money. It improves your culture tenfold, because you're being very intent and articulating what's actually going on in your business, because I can guarantee what's going on in your business is not the same as everyone else's. So first of all, I'm going to go through the psychosocial risks and the factors that are based around psychosocial risks. And this is mentioned in the ISO 45001, which is the health and safety international standard. And again, when I ask people, how are you testing it? How are you measuring it? They say they put employee surveys out. And when I look at their employee surveys, it doesn't scratch half of the factors that need to be incorporated or to get a good picture of what's actually going on within their business. And I can tell whether their business is good or bad because I look at their numbers. I look at their turnover with staff. I look at their sick leave. And that will give me a very good indication of what their culture's like. So if we have a look at the factors, there are several factors, and some do and don't apply. So I'll tell you those ones, and they're quite self-explanatory as well. You'll know whether they apply when you're in your business. So the first one is around role. So what is their role? And there's loads of questions that you can ask around people's role. Like, do they feel that they have autonomy around their role? Do they feel that they know what their role is and the boundaries within that role? And we look at job descriptions and things like that. Then we have a look at the work. Like, work is another factor. So work is around, your workload and how you work well together. There's loads of different questions, again, around the factor of work. Now, another factor is around leadership. So whether leadership is good or bad, whether they feel that they can talk to their leaders or not, whether they know who to talk to, and whether they feel that they can talk to them. And that also goes into communication, which is also another factor. You also have control. Control is another factor of how much control do they feel that they have? Do they feel that they have autonomy around their job, or do they feel micromanaged? Support. Do they feel that when they're going through something, do they feel that they have the support? When they're getting a heavy workload, do they feel supported with regards to their leaders and their team in getting that job done? Then there's relationships. How are their relationships? Just interpersonal relationships within their team, and also relationships within the stakeholders as well, and the hierarchy within the business if they have to deal with them. What is the relationship like there? Reward and recognition. I've spoken to you about this in a lot of other videos, about how when you show people appreciation and you reward them and recognize them, it actually builds up a lot of good culture, positive culture within the business, because they feel they start building that loyalty and feeling that they're contributing. Organizational justice. Do they feel that they're fairly treated? If something happens, do they feel that it's dealt with swiftly? There's loads of questions around that as well, and how they perceive. Remember, it's all about perception, whether they perceive it to be dealt with well, dealt with swiftly. But we need to find out what they're thinking to be able to do anything as well. I pull out things like, I call them events. So I like to know whether there's actually any harassment that's going on in the business, because we can then start targeting a little bit deeper into, okay, so do they know that the communication pathways that they should take if they do experience any type of harassment? Do they even understand what harassment is or isn't? It's about, again, communication. You can see how a lot of these factors are interlinked. So by asking one question, you can get a good feeling of a couple of factors of where you're sitting with that. And then when I said to you about there's some that doesn't fit every business. Now, remote working is one. So now, since 2020, a lot more people are working from home. So there's different remote working. There's remote working where people are working away in mines and are away for a period of time. There are people that are remote working where they work in a client's office. So they're not actually working in their own team, they're working with a client's office. There's people that work at home now. So also, these are also factors. So we need to understand what their perception, how they're feeling with regards to this factor, because if they're feeling disconnected, it's not building a very good culture, and they're going to be higher likely to leave. So it's having a look at all of these aspects on building a mentally healthy workplace and reducing the psychosocial risks within your company. Now, when we talk about the psychosocial risks, we want to be quite specific around what they are with regards to the questioning and how we can incorporate and do something about it. Now, I have created a benchmark within my business that I sell to companies that they roll out, and it is against the 45,001 psychosocial risks. So it does fall in alignment with that, because it is all around identifying, testing and measuring and strategizing, reducing the risk and moving forward. And when you look at all of these factors, you can really start targeting your actions. So when you're looking at building a mentally healthy workplace, if it comes back on the assessment that we do that people are unsure of a lot of stuff, like they don't know the communication pathways, or they're unsure of what their job role is or the boundaries of their job role, we can start really targeting our strategy for building a mentally healthy workplace. There was a business that we did one, and people felt that they had no flexibility. And what I call a low risk, high yield, which builds momentum, costs the company very little to implement, was we actually put another initiative around the flexible working policy, because the company already had one, but the guys didn't know how to implement it, or they didn't even know that it existed. And this was pre-COVID. So what they did is ran out another initiative around it, started getting the leaders to activate what it looks like within their team, encouraging people to do it and experience it, so that they can then decide whether it's something for them or that it is an option for them. And it's creating that psychologically safe working place that they feel that they can do that. And then all of a sudden, their score just went up, because they didn't actually do anything special, or they literally just highlighted something they already had and showed them what it looked like. So it built confidence within their team, because they're listening to us. We're feeling how, and they're actually doing something about this assessment and the data and the feedback that they're getting from us, which when then you do pulse tests, which is your test and measure, your score goes up, and they are more likely to give you candid answers, which is what you want. You want the truth. So when my clients look at the dashboard, it will tell them identify the high risk areas, so that they can start strategizing around those high risk areas first, and also start planning out a whole year of strategy around the results and the feedback that they've got from the benchmark, which is all drawn up in this dashboard. So it's easy to read for them, and they don't have to go through hundreds of questions. And they can then say, okay, so Queensland, they need leadership training, but they need it around communication and personality. But I also see that we've got an issue around flexible working around Victoria. So let's run an initiative around countrywide or Australia-wide around our flexible working policy. I see that we have people are feeling very disconnected when they're working remotely. Let's build up initiatives. Let's start asking more questions and start looking at how we can help them to feel more connected to us. All of a sudden, you've got a playbook for you to build that mentally healthy workplace, for you to test and measure, and for you to actually start being very targeted with the initiatives that you are rolling out. So you're not blanketing things, putting your fingers crossed and hoping that something's going to happen. If you want to know more about the assessment, feel free to send me an email on info@proactiveaction.co, or feel free to reach out on LinkedIn, send me a DM. More than happy to help and answer any questions you have. There is more information on our website, which is www.proactiveaction.co. But this is a good way, guys, of being able to test and measure and to improve that culture in the most quickest, fastest, and leanest way, because you're asking the right questions to start building that environment that you want, and also you're reducing your risk. So even if it does come back, the fact that you have had an answer come back that yes, there has been a harassment issue, the questions that are asked around that, you can identify, well, is this a communication issue? Is it a misunderstanding issue? Is it one that they have gone up but it hasn't actually been rectified to their to what they feel has been satisfactory? It being articulated with the questions, you can actually start finding out where the missing pieces of your puzzle are. So all of a sudden you've got the puzzle, you've got the instructions, and you just need to put a piece in place at a time, but you also know in which order. So I hope that's cleared up what psychosocial risks are and hazards are, and the factors that build up psychosocial risks, and also a way of identifying them and being able to test and measure and increase the well-being and the mental health within your organization and your business in a way that saves you money and gives you the quickest and leanest route possible. If you roll out employee surveys, look at them, jot down the factors that I've given you in this audio, and look back. Do they cover every one of these factors? Because if you do one benchmark and one benchmark well, the next time all you need to do is just say, okay, so we focused on leadership. Let's just do a pulse test. So you pull out the questions that you did on the pulse test for leadership, do a pulse test on that, and you've got your test and measure. So that's how strategic and intent the dashboard, the questions, the surveys, the assessments can be, and how you can actually measure whether your initiatives are actually working, whether you're hitting the spot, or whether more work needs to be done. So as I said before, if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out, but I hope this has been valuable to you. Feel free to share this with anyone that you know would benefit from hearing this and get information from it. So until the next time, take care.